welcome the CEO of TAP Air Portugal, Christine Ourmieres-Widener, in conversation with Skift Airline Weekly editor Madhu Unnikrishnan.
Hello, Christine. Welcome to the Skift Aviation Forum, and thank you so much for closing out the day with us.
Hello, Madhu. Thank you so much for your invitation.
So since we last spoke in Seoul, now Christine and I spoke in Seoul at sort of June of 2019. Since that time, you have a new role. Congratulations on your new role.
Thank you. Yes, I joined TAP end of June 2021.
Right. So, but you've come to TAP at a very, very fascinating time for the airline and for the industry. First of all, your home market of Portugal is probably the hottest tourism market in the world right now. I mean, with digital nomads and people visiting beaches, and Portugal had a very high vaccination rate and reopened faster than a lot of Europe. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, TAP is undergoing a restructuring at the moment that was recently approved by regulators, I believe. Let's start with the restructuring. What does the restructuring mean for TAP in the sort of the near term and medium term?
I think that we are first not the only airline having to reconsider, redefine, or reinvent ourselves. So for TAP, the restructuring has four pillars that are really the ones that are the same for, I think, many of our colleagues. The first one is to adjust capacities. We have been adjusting capacities for a number of months and now years after the pandemic, and adjusting on a regular basis. Second one is to reduce our costs, and we are looking at all cost items, not only labor costs, like has been communicated, because we have been incurring a significant collective dismissal, that just ended in October this year, but also all third-party costs, and also looking at our fleet and all the costs that are around also maintenance and organization. So all what we spend every single day. Then you have the revenue side. How can be more efficient? The pandemic and the behavior of customer have seen a quite significant increase in expectation in digital experience. So how we could improve this full digital experience for our customers, but also how can we optimize our distribution structure that are, sustaining our revenue growth and revenue structure. And then the fourth one is we have all been incurring new debts, and balance sheet is not really great. So how could we improve this? So four dimensions in our restructuring plan that is quite obviously shared with many other airlines.
Well, can you explain a little bit further the digital experience portion of that?
So during the crisis, for a number of services, so customers have been used more and more to go online for a number of reasons. And it's exactly what the airline industry has seen, but not only to buy services, but also the full experience before, meaning information before flying. That is even more and more significant now, because people need to have more confidence in their experience and understanding what documents they need, what type of vaccination they need, but also test evolution requirements with borders and different rules for different countries. So pre-travel. Then you have the experience of buying a ticket, and then with all changes, potential opening or closing of borders, all the post-travel experience that could be refunds, but also change a flight. If you've already your bookings, you want to change your flight, you have different situation. So it's quite a full challenge we have to make sure not only we are providing service, but we are providing service at the right level of quality and answering to the needs or expectations. So we all had to upgrade this experience, and also because people in parallel, and all our customers would still like to have a human interaction. So we had in parallel of this digital experience to upgrade the human interaction with our call centers. We've seen a huge increase in calls even with the upgrades of our online experience. And we had also to deliver a different type of experience, not only online, but also with our call centers. And I must say that TAP has been surprised by the increase of the calls and the pressure on the call center, but it has been a very tough, time for all our employees and our partners around the world.
Well, you mentioned in when you're describing the digital improvements, the need for vaccine, not learning about restrictions and vaccine requirements over the just this last week, we've heard several European countries have again started to tighten restrictions in advance of a new wave of the disease. TAP is very lucky, and Europe in general was very fortunate over the summer with the high rates of vaccination to see demand rise again. How do you think of the near term? How are you prepared to handle this latest surge, and what will it mean for the airline?
I think that is difficult for any airline, but the crisis also have been changing completely the work of the network teams. In the past, we were publishing a network for a season, and during the season that were quite few changes. Honestly, we were adjusting, improving, but it was really, incremental, let's say. What we've learned during the crisis and still now is that we will never come back to the old normal, but to a new normal. And the new normal will be that during the season, even after publishing our schedule, there is a need for changes because of what is going on. The world will not be maybe the world we knew before, and we'll have to be flexible, adaptable. So it's adjustment of capacity, adjustment of origin and destination, also information to our customers. So there will be, changes in what we publish and then what we operate, and we have to be prepared for that. So it's difficult for us because we are a hub and spoke carrier. So it's not only because it's not happening in Portugal, it's whatever change will happen on borders open or closure, we'll have to be ready to adapt.
Right. Well, I would like to discuss the hub in a minute, but when I wanted to talk about some of the network changes that TAP has made, especially in light of the fact that Portugal has emerged as one of the biggest tourism destinations in the planet. So what have you done to sort of capitalize on the strength of your home market? That's question A. Question B is, you're not the only airline that has noticed that Portugal is one of the most important tourism markets in the world. The low-cost European low-cost carriers have really, really stepped up their game in Portugal. So let's start with question A. What have you how are you capitalizing on this interest in Portugal now?
I think that it's maybe the way the markets are recovering and the fact that we are following that carefully. So we have been looking at capacity evolution and following the demand curve. And our demand curve may be compared to other carrier in Europe, but was a little bit different. First, we don't fly to Asia, as you know. So we have not been impacted at the same level from all these destinations that have been even more challenging for both opening or closing. We had the opportunity to have some borders opening, for instance, to Brazil, maybe much earlier than North America, full opening just last week. So it's something that has had an impact. So for us, it's a mix of point-to-point, but not only, but point-to-point combined with connectivity. And so our capacity for this winter is already at 80% compared to 2019. And we are expecting, let's say, a similar trend for next summer. So that's the impact on our network is the capacity evolution. We didn't really do significant changes in our network as far as the region we serve. It's more we have been playing with frequency and the type of aircraft we are flying to some destination. But we are almost at a number of destinations quite stable in what we serve. It's more the frequencies that are lower, of course. And on main destination like Brazil, we were flying 11 destinations, for instance, in 2019. We are already at 10 destinations for this winter, but of course with lower frequencies. We are restoring all our North American destination. We just reopened last week JFK. We're already flying Newark. So it's just step by step, but maybe with a highest recovery for South Atlantic compared to North America, because the opening were a little bit later for us.
Now, Brazil, if I'm not mistaken, is the second largest market for TAP outside of Portugal. How resilient throughout the crisis, how resilient has the Brazil market been for the airline?
I think it's been very challenging when we had, first it was completely closed, then there was a possibility for Brazilian to fly to Europe, but was not a possibility for Europeans to fly to Brazil without having to quarantine back in Portugal. So that was really a difficulty to support international travel. Now everything is open. Of course, you still have to do some tests in addition to vaccination. But I was traveling to Brazil 2 weeks ago, and it's a very booming market. And I think Brazilians have still difficulty to travel to North America because there is significant backlog in visa for them. So their favorite destination is Europe because they want to visit a number of countries. We are trying to keep them in Portugal when they travel to Europe because there are so many things to do. But when they travel, it's for a long period of time, and they don't want to stay in the same place. So there are many things to see in Portugal, but they also travel to other countries in Europe.
So for the Brazil market, has the point of sale mainly been Portugal to start, Brazil. And now you're seeing an increase in the point of sale from Brazil?
I think the first point of sale for Brazil is Brazil, meaning for our routes.
Right.
In TAP revenue, third point of sale is Portugal, second one in Brazil. But in increase of booking, the significant increase is being coming from Brazil.
Right. So you mentioned, sort of Brazil is almost up to, in terms of the number of destinations, not the frequency, up to 2019 levels. North America is reopening. TAP has historically has had a very strong network in Lusophone Africa in particular. Yes. How has that market held up during the pandemic? I mean, we hear that Africa was generally resilient, but
very resilient. It was a very good surprise because it's something you cannot maybe predict before the crisis. But yes, all our market in Africa have been really resilient, most resilient market during the crisis. And we kept, our network. It's very also key for us because we are connecting communities with a very strong link to Portugal. Yeah. So, and that's something that we kept during the crisis.
Now, for your Africa network, particularly Lusophone Africa, is most of the traffic? How would you characterize the split between business and visiting friends and relatives traffic for those from those countries?
I think it's a 60-40, 60 for VFR, what we call. Yeah. But there is a discrepancy between markets. Our markets are more business than others. In average is 60. So, but markets that are more linked to oil and maybe raw materials and are more business because mining, industry. But average is 60-40.
And when commodity prices are high, then business traffic from Lusophone Africa also is high, correct?
Absolutely. So, and it's interesting to see, what will be the evolution because cost of some commodities are going up and down. It was going up for a few months, and now we are interested to see what will be the evolution. But yes, there are some volatility. But again, overall, even with a balance of business and leisure, a very resilient market.
And is TAP planning to expand or is expanding beyond its historical stronghold in the former Portuguese or the Portuguese-speaking part of the continent, or is there a move into other parts of Africa?
I think for 2022, we need to be still very cautious Why? Is because first, as you mentioned, we are in restructuring, we are under state aid. It would be for us difficult to move out of these countries without taking a significant risk in investing, and taking, investing in new destinations. So our strategy, as far as the network is concerned, is to reinforce our network and our positioning in this country, because we are not yet at the level of 2019. So we'll first reinforce, making sure our position are even stronger in 2022. And then we'll see in 2023. But our industry is still in full recovery mode. We don't know yet for Europe what will be the slot waiver rule. We'll only know that next month.
Right.
So it's a very key step for us. So we are, as a first top priority is to make sure we are recovering the market. We already know, and the market also. We have a team in place, structure in place, relationship with airport. But 2023 will be, I'm sure, hopefully another story, but 2022 will be about rebuilding.
Right. And so speaking of rebuilding, before the crisis, TAP operates a 4-continent hub out of Lisbon. And before the crisis, there was concern that the Lisbon Airport would be a constraint on TAP's future growth. Obviously, there's been a pause with the crisis. How do you think that as you plan for 2022, 23, and beyond, Lisbon will continue to be a constraint?
Well, Lisbon Airport has always been a very challenging airport. First, because Lisbon Airport is in the city, so right. That's quite unusual for a hub. Second, because there's been a project for a new airport, but I think this project started, almost 60 years ago. So it's quite long stories for the country. So for us, what is really key is at some point to have a decision, because as you know, for business, what is not good is uncertainty. So we would like to understand what will be the next airport development choice, and that choice, that has to be at some point taken by the government. I think that they are willing to take a decision now, and as a main national carriers, that will give us a capacity then to build a plan and to build the growth, I think, beyond 2023, 2024. So it's a question of a mix of infrastructure, but also ATC. There are quite a number of projects that then will be able to start with different stakeholders when we will have this certainty. So first a decision, then we will manage, right. The next steps.
Great. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about something that was the hot topic at the recent IATA annual general meeting last month, and has been a topic throughout the day today, and that is environmental sustainability goals. IATA has set very aggressive targets for ESG, and in TAP's restructuring, how does ESG factor into rebuilding the airline?
I think that in any airline strategy, sustainability is definitely a key priority. Today, TAP has already commitment in sustainable fuel. We have projects with different stakeholders, mainly, the airport, but also the main energy provider in Portugal, Gulf. So that's a project we have already in place. That's a first step, sustainable fuel for the next year. Of course, TAP was part of the commitment of IATA for 2050, and we are committed like all the main players on our industry. We have some visions that we will publish next year on a few steps that we are sharing with some of our partners. But yes, for us, it will be definitely a planned release. Honestly, I've been a few months in the company, so it's something that will be next year, but we will be committed like we should. It's an expectation from our customers, but it's also an expectation from our employees and from our shareholders too.
Right. Well, there's one way that I found very interesting. You have pitched Lisbon as the greener hub for transatlantic and connections to Europe. Can you explain that to our audience today?
I think it's the shortest distance between Europe. That's quite the easiest way to describe it, because we can fly 321 LRs from Lisbon to New York, but that's we are not the only one to do that between Europe and New York. But we can also fly 21 LRs between Europe, so Lisbon and northeast of Brazil. So that's quite a sustainable way to connect, the lungs of the country, of the world to Europe. So we are trying to explain that and to create an awareness, because that's very efficient. And when you connect, for instance, Southern Europe to Brazil, it's really from a number of miles you have to fly, plus the type of aircraft. So you combine 321 LRs with the shortest distance. Yes, it's definitely factually the greenest way to fly.
That's an interesting argument that I hadn't heard before you mentioned it, but of course it makes a lot of sense. Now, in the few minutes we have left, I wanted to bring up something that is also a very important topic today. And Christine, you're a member of a very, very select and very small club, and that is women leaders in aerospace and aviation. What can the industry do to encourage more women to pursue careers in aerospace?
Well, first, I would not like to be a member of a very selected club. I think we should be more. Second, I think that the industry, and this is what IATA has done in recent years, define some objectives that they want to, deliver. So KPIs, objectives to see more women in leadership role. We need to prepare, a new generation. We need to prepare and identify talents, and we need to make sure they are all ready for the next step. So that's a responsibility we have as leaders. You talked about ESG, you talked about sustainability, but when you say the 17 UN goals, diversity is one of them. So right. It's if you want to be responsible and accountable leaders, we need to deliver. So I was lucky in also being pushed to study engineering. So I was, my first experience was in maintenance and engineering, but I think that I was the only woman in the hangar. So right. By inviting and showing that it's possible to as many girls, because yes, to start as soon as possible, we will make it happen. So it's just communicating more. I think quite a number of airlines that have been communicating a lot, yet I did a lot, much more than when I started my career. So it will definitely be a positive process for the industry, but it's about, making sure it's happening.
Right. So as you stand where you are now at the leader of a major airline, and drawing on your background as an engineer, what advice would you give to young women and girls to encourage them to study science, what we call in the States STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math?
I think that it's possible, and it's not only looking at what other women did, were successful in doing that. I have a number of colleagues, women that are now in leadership roles, more and more making sure they know that everything is possible. They can do it, and they can definitely achieve what they want. And if they have the ambition, and if they have no problem in working 24 hours a day and 365 days a year, because that's what airline is requesting for anybody, being men or women, I think they will be successful. And I think the industry is willing to see that more and more. So that's very positive.
Well, Christine, thank you so much for joining us today and closing out the Skift Aviation Forum. I hope that we can do this again soon in person.
I hope to, and I wish you all the best. And thank you for Skift and this forum for the invitation again.
Thank you.
Bye.